You look at the regional banks who hold 70% of all the small business loans, 70% of all the commercial real estate loans and leases, and $1.5 trillion worth of these loans and leases need to be reset in the next 15 months. What happens when they go to reset those loans or leases at twice or three times the cost of money? What happens to the consumer who went out on a limb at these low rates, but they lose their job? Then what? We were just told that the consumer, for the first time ever, has over $1 trillion in credit card debt. We were just told that for the first time, the consumer debt is over $17 trillion. We were just told that 65% of America is living paycheck to paycheck, 45% of America earning over $100,000 living paycheck to paycheck. Is that the environment where people can withstand a slowdown or a layoff or a recession? And so I think that the macro perspective is one of concern. And one of the things that people are ignoring, Peter, is that when the Dodd-Frank law was passed in 2009 after the great financial crisis, bank bailouts were made illegal. Bail-ins are what are supposed to happen. And that's why there was such outrage when Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank were bailed out. A Chinese firm has secured a contract from Iran to upgrade Iran's major international airport. But Peter, wait till you hear how they plan on paying for this, right? So talk about the way these deals are being made, sidestepping the dollar, which you keep doing deals outside the dollar. The settlement value of the dollar starts to, at some point, erode the lack of settling in all of these transactions, which always used to be dollar denominated, creating a synthetic demand for the dollar. If you stop settling in the dollar, and the lack of settlement demand for the dollar at some point will greatly erode the reserve value of the dollar. But listen to what they're doing right now, keeping in mind that next year we may see a joint settlement currency, the BRICS settlement currency pegged to gold or something along those lines. That's what they were told to come back next year with. And they publicly said that. But listen to how they're doing things now. So this Chinese firm was awarded a large contract to upgrade Iran's largest international airport. And when you hear how they're paying, it will make a little more sense. The deal is worth $2.7 billion. So Iran will give them oil. They're going to upgrade their airport and do things, financially, with equipment and with technical services. Think about that. That would have all been settled in dollars. Now it's going to be settled for crude oil. So again, the erosion of settlement on the dollar will begin to affect its reserve status at some point. And wait until they go bang. And now here's our unified BRICS settlement currency next year. What's going to happen? But that's why I talk about logarithmic decay and the game Jenga, where you pull one piece out one at a time. What's the one piece that makes the whole thing tip over? Or in logarithmic decay, when do you hit the falls? And I think we're getting to that point, Peter. And just because we didn't see the earth shatter and gold go to the moon and a new BRICS gold-backed currency come out on the 22nd, what we are seeing are the pieces on the chessboard, little by little, very methodically, very plottingly, very well thought out, being put into position to get to that moment. And that's something that I think is at this point becoming incredibly probable. In a world of no guarantees and only probabilities, I've never been more certain that this is ultimately where we are heading. What is gold? What did the Bank of International Settlements tell us about gold in 2019? Very quietly, again, no one knows this. Google it, it'll pop right up. Gold, as redefined or reclassified by the Bank of International Settlements, which is the central banker's central bank, the most influential bank on the planet, reclassify gold as the world's only other tier one.
Yeah.
It's a riskless asset. You put that, it used to just be dollars and treasuries. You put that in context, especially with the new Basel III the Basel III rules, it has to be, if it's segregated and it's not futures, it is tier one. It used to just be dollars and treasuries. So if they're going to load up on gold, it's a tier one asset. And that's why it will be the perfect thing to use to launch a new system. I am not a cryptocurrency guy. I think there are some cryptocurrencies that have utility, Ripple, XRP, You could argue has utility. Theta has utility. And I think there is room for that. No question about it. As far as Bitcoin is concerned, I don't find it to have any particular utility. I guess you could call it a store of value or a speculative store of value, because you don't see gold go from 65,000 down to 20,000. Well, you never see gold go that high, but you know what I'm saying. You don't see gold losing 65% of its value in the blink of an eye. So it is speculative. But I guess what cryptocurrencies really represent to me is a understanding of a large portion of the world to the reasons to push back against the fiat system. I think the disconnection that some people have, and the way that I look at it and the way that others look at it, perhaps, is that a large portion of the public who invests in cryptocurrencies is doing it to get wealthy. And when you talk about gold, I don't buy it to get wealthy. I buy it because it is wealth. What asset do all the central banks hold? Not cryptocurrencies. They hold gold. I own some XRP, Ripple. I own some Theta. I own one Bitcoin, because I think in order to be successful in any field or be a commentator on life and economics, you have to look at both sides of the equation. And I don't understand cryptocurrencies, but I understand them just enough to have a very small toe dipped into the water with it. And I guess we'll see. In the end, I believe most cryptocurrencies will fall by the wayside in a land of central bank digital currencies. And those that do survive, in my opinion, will have great utility. When you talk about these countries, China in particular, they think in terms of years and decades, and we think in terms of minutes and seconds and weeks. It's a big problem when you're trying to discern the chessboard that is being laid in front of our feet by these nations. So look, you have Saudi Arabia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates as three of the six new countries that have joined. And in that you have three of the largest oil producers on the planet. You have Argentina, which is also a major agricultural producer, but most people don't know they're the largest producer of natural gas in South America. You have Egypt and Ethiopia. Well, Egypt controls the Suez Canal, and Ethiopia is the fastest growing economy in Africa. You have in these companies 75% of the world's manganese, 50% of the global graphite, 28% of the nickel, and 10% of the copper. You have 3.6 billion people in this new BRICS Plus group that represents 45% of total GDP, total population on the earth.